So we're jumping in here, but I need you to be quiet. That's how it works, right? Otherwise, you all get recorded here. Thank you, Kayenda. Come on in. On page 402, we're starting with digestive system. And we have our parts, right? You kind of could break it down into two pieces, right? The accessory organs and the alimentary canal. My Spanish-speaking folks, alimentary, which is? Right, so it's the food canal, right? Works very nicely. The mouth, what's the point of your mouth? Functions, right? Because remember, all of these, if you go back to our list, all of these things are going back to functions, right? What do they do? So it's the initial breaking down. How does it break it down? Mechanically, which means what? Chewing, right? The physical act of breaking down these more complex things. There's also where it begins that chemical digestion of carbohydrates. Helped on by those accessory organs that are in the mouth. Sir? I'm sorry? You have to, those teeth are not exclusively just for tearing meat. Are you with me? I think our teeth are made to allow us to eat whatever's available to us. And we'll go through what's there. Yes. The biblical laws about not eating meat and things, these are all about health. This is all about things, number one, health, number two, things that God has said, this is just not good for you. You know? And so He's consecrated, He's set apart these certain things. Yeah. Pharynx. What's the function of the pharynx? Yeah. It's a connector, right? It's between the mouth and the esophagus. Okay? You could talk about the epiglottis that's there. We talk about it more in the respiratory system. Because for the most part, it's always closed over the esophagus, right? The esophagus is usually closed off because you're breathing much more often than you're eating. At least most of us are. Okay, sometimes, yeah, keep on rolling. How about the esophagus? What's its function? Pathway to the lungs, hopefully not. Stomach, good. Connecting those two, right? This process of moving the food down, how does that work? What's the word for that? Peristalsis, right? It's like a wave of contraction, pushing it down. In the stomach, that's where you get the acids that but continue this breakdown of the food, in particularly the proteins, right? It also mixes. When you hear your stomach gurgling, that's the mixing of this food as the stomach is kind of contracting and moving and mixing things up here. So in the mouth is where carbohydrates start to break down. In the stomach is where the proteins start to break down. What are we missing? Of your three main types of nutrients. Fats. We've got vitamins and minerals too, but the three main types of things we eat, the nutrients we get, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, right? So where do fats, how are fats digested? From the liver, right? They're producing that bile that emulsifies, breaks down these fat molecules. And so that really doesn't begin until you get into that small intestine, because that's when the bile is being inserted in that small intestine area. Why is the small intestine so large? Takes a long time, okay. Why else? So we got as much chance as possible to absorb those nutrients, right? If I had just like a foot, we could keep it inside that foot for, a year. That'd be fine. But we want more chance in the time to get it out for it to be absorbed, right? That's good. What is the main function of the small intestine then? To absorb what? The nutrients, right? It's certainly going to continue to break down things, the final breakdown of the food molecules, so of all three things, carbohydrates, proteins, and it's where you're doing the main absorption of your nutrients. And I would go all 5 of those nutrients: proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, vitamins, minerals. The 6th nutrient, what's that? Water. And where's that mostly absorbed? In the large intestine. Okay? The pancreas, the gallbladder is where it stores the bile. So as the liver is producing it, it'll store in that gallbladder to then be inserted into the small intestine when it's needed. When you eat a nice fatty meal, you need more bile, right? And the pancreas is producing that pancreatic juice that, again, is containing the digestive enzymes to help break down that food. Quite a process. Large intestine absorbs the water and also forms the feces, right? All that leftovers, all the stuff that your body couldn't absorb. And rectum, anus, passing it out to the outside. What else is in the small and large intestine other than the water and the nutrients and the feces? Bacteria. Thousands and millions of bacteria. If you go to the very beginning of this chapter, flip over just another page or two, on page 400, they talked about that. And it was one of the questions that I had for you on your study guide, the role of bacteria in the large and small intestines and how those are affected by antibiotics. Well, what do they do? What do these bacteria do in the intestines? Like, why are they there? Because I mentioned this before, that you have more cells in your body that are not of your body than are of your body. Does that make sense? There's more bacteria cells within you than there are actual cells of your own pieces. Sounds crazy, but true. Why? What do they help do? Sure, they help break down some things that your body is not able to break down, that we don't have the enzymes to produce. Either they will break it down themselves, or they'll help produce the enzymes that will break down these things. If you're looking for this, on page 400, about halfway down, almost at the bottom of that first set of reading, it talks about, what else does it do then, Janelle, since I know you're there? Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, these are ways of your body being able to use nutrients that otherwise it couldn't.
Breaks down toxins and drugs and helps synthesize them.
So it actually is even making some vitamins that you need. Are you with me? So not only is it breaking down some food that you wouldn't be able to break down otherwise, it's actually producing some things that you need. So what is an antibiotic then? Kills bacteria, right? Antibiotic, killing life, right? That's what the actual roots of the word are. We take it, why? An infection, right? This is basically one of the hugest things that we've done as a population. What's the word I want? As a civilized population. The reason why our life expectancy is so long, one of the main ones, is because we have antibiotics. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, those are formulated to only give you. There is no such thing as good or bad bacteria. There are some bacteria in your stomach currently that, if they got out of control, would cause infections and cause you to be sick. You with me? So it's all about having the right balance amount of them. And so a probiotic is it's formulated to give you what you need. That's its plan. That's its point. So antibiotics will attack. They'll attack this invader, which is good. But what does it also attack? All the good stuff, right? So that's why on antibiotics, and maybe you don't observe these things as closely as I do, but you will have a significant change in your feces from those, and it causes this as a side effect. Sometimes it's much more diarrhea-ish. Sometimes it makes you much more constipated. Sometimes it just changes how things are being absorbed. Why? Because it's killing those bacteria. Does that make sense? So what Chelsea was mentioning is a probiotic, which has really only happened in the last 5 or 10 years that they've really come out with these things. It's a way of, I take this antibiotic to kill this stuff. Okay, fantastic. Now I'm going to take a probiotic even simultaneously to help get this good stuff back. There's even been studies that have shown that taking a probiotic will reduce depression. And that how those are connected, they're not entirely sure. But it has helped. I know a number of people who have taken these for that exact reason. So it's quite interesting. Little piece. Okay. We've already talked through the 6 forms of the nutrients. Okay, and what your body does with them, how they use them. Your textbook talks about those, the lipids in the cells, right? Proteins, building muscle, building tissues, carbohydrates as the sugars to run the different cells. And again, I'm just giving you super main, very generalized. Your book was much more detailed as far as that goes. Questions there? All right? All right. Respiratory system. Let's move there next. Our respiratory system, wrong one. Looks like so. This is on page what? I have my notes here, 443. Page 443. And again, remember, big picture. I'm leaving this whole unit is on what 2 things? Absorption and secretion. Okay? So what is the digestive system absorbing? Nutrients and, well, okay, I guess we call it one of the 6 nutrients, but it's absorbing those nutrients, which I think of as your food particles, and water. And what is it excreting? All the waste, either what we can't use or other byproducts that are produced. Solid byproducts. Okay, so now we're to the respiratory system. What is its, what is it absorbing? Oxygen. What is it excreting? Carbon dioxide, CO2, right? You do. Yep. Okay. So we have the front part, the very top part. We have the oral cavity, the nasal cavity. The hard palate is just the bone on top of your mouth. If you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, that's the hard palate. Okay? Yeah, if you eat too hot of things, it'll get you. What's the point? What's the function of these areas? Nasal cavity, oral cavity. Okay, resonance, certainly that's what I talk about the frontal sinuses being about, as well as a nasal cavity. If your nose is stuffed, then you sound much different, right? When you're cold or stuffy, because you don't have that same resonance. Sure. I wouldn't call that a primary function. It does make your head lighter. These are all the good functions. I would not call these the primary ones. Respiratory system. What are you trying to absorb? Oxygen. So then what are the mouth and nose's main function? Get that air in, right? Yeah, get it in. What is it also doing to that air? Filtering it. What else? Sorry? Warming it. Yep. What else? Moistening it. You got it. That's why all these passageways are lined with what? With mucus, right? Or the hairs and these kind of things. Yeah. To filter. Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have to label the diagrams, or we just, like, know the function of each of the pieces?
Yes.
So we do have to label it?
I mean, I don't think this would be that hard. That's why we've talked about all these pieces, so I don't want you all to freak out about these diagrams. There should all be things that you're comfortable with.
I wouldn't know where the epic lotus is. Yeah, like, if you know what it does.
Yes, I do want you to know both. I do want you to know both.
We have to know the function of everything that's on the diagram.
The pieces that I gave you. The pieces that I gave you here.
But yeah, we still know. But we don't have to label the ones that
Right.
so only the ones we have to know.
I want you to know the diagram and make sure I'm being very clear. The function's here. The diagram, I want you to know.
Yeah, so for, like, we wouldn't have to label it epiglottis then, because now it's a function.
You would have to label it. Yes, I wouldn't ask you the function of it. How about that? Are you with me? Okay. Okay. I'm not trying to make it.
Diagrams are only answer the functions of the ones on the.
There you go. There we go. There we go. All right. What is the function of the epiglottis, though?
It closes off so that the air. Yeah, so food doesn't go into the trachea.
Sure. Or air doesn't go into the stomach. It works both ways.
That way you
Doesn't
get
air go
You get some. That's why we burp, right? Yeah. Right, because we do swallow some of that. Good. Let's keep moving. The trachea, the larynx, the bronchial tubes, the bronchial tree. All of this is just carrying the air down to the lungs, right? And inside the lungs, what is the main functional unit of the lungs? The alveoli, right? The alveoli. Okay, so I wanted to make sure you know how the O2 and the CO2 are exchanged in the alveoli. What is it that causes that exchange? Okay, it's diffusion, right? Caused by these pressures, right? Caused by the pressure. I have more pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood and less in the alveoli, in the lungs itself. So therefore, what happens to the carbon dioxide? Moves into the alveolus, right? Out of the blood into the alveolus. More pressure of oxygen in the alveoli than I have in the blood. So what happens to the oxygen? Into the blood from the lung. Okay, so that's just diffusion. It's just the diffusion of these things across that semi-permeable membrane. Okay? How is it transported? How is oxygen taken around? Well, sure, but more specific. The hemoglobin in the blood. How's the carbon dioxide transported? It can attach to the hemoglobin to form carbonyl-hemoglobin. It can, well, what else? It can dissolve in the blood, right? Actually be carried in the blood itself. And it can go as, there, you're in the right spot. The carbonic acid. Oh, it's on a different page. Or is that bicarbonate ions? There we go. In the carbonic acid. Inspiration, expiration. How does that work? Inspiration. What causes the inspiration? Not relaxing. Contracting of what? The diaphragm. And that pulls it down, right? So it's decreasing the pressure in the lungs, right? Creating a vacuum. We're talking about inspiration, expiration. Yep. Well, actually, before this, we skipped. So as that contracts and it moves down, it lowers the pressure in the chest, so therefore more pressure in the air around you. So what happens to the air? Forced into your mouth. Exactly. If you puncture a lung, like if you get stabbed, right? And now air can enter through here. Can you breathe? No matter how hard this diaphragm contracts, I can't lower the pressure in the lung, so air can't get in. Are you with me? A little bit could theoretically get in through the hole. And you would actually, there'd be like this sucking kind of sound. That's how you know if a lung has been pierced. Because it's trying to breathe. You're trying to make these exchange. Right, so you can get some air, but not, you could die still from that. Yeah. You had a question, Matthew?
Yeah. I was under the impression that when you die, you breathe in, and that's final. Like you don't breathe out. So if you're
I have never heard that before. I'm not familiar with that because expiration is simply just relaxing, right? The work is done with inspiration, and expiration is just that relaxing, the constriction of the chest, the diaphragm relaxing. So no, I would say you would breathe out as your last something rather than breathe in. But I don't know. I haven't studied that a ton. You had a question, sir? I think you could. You may have some difficulties with that. But yeah, I would say you probably could. Good. Shh. Stay with me, friends. Last but not least, let's talk about the urinary system. What's the main organ of the urinary system? Kidneys. What is your urinary system working to absorb? It's water, really. It does absorb electrolytes as well. So, but it kind of, remember, Hank talked about how the system basically, it's fine, basically absorbs, like takes all the stuff out of the blood and then puts it back in, right? And it does this with 99% of the water, right? Takes it out, puts it in. Takes it out, puts it in. And it's just that little 1 or so percent that gets made into urine. So it's absorbing water, and it's secreting what? Urine. All the waste, right? All the liquid waste. Whereas the digestive system dealt with solid waste, this is dealing with liquid waste, right? What's the main organ that functions here? The kidneys. What's the actual functional unit of the kidney? Okay, bigger than the loops of Henle. The nephron. Remember, the nephron is the actual whole piece, because you don't just have the loop of Henle. You have the proximal convoluted tube and the distal convoluted tube, right? Okay. From those kidneys, where is the urine then carried to? The bladder through the ureters, and it's stored there until that bladder gets stretched enough that it sends a signal to the brain that, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. And then the urethra sends that outside the body. Okay? Yes? Sure. Oh, okay. So I don't know if we ever don't have random questions here. So, so keep going then, you're saying.
Well, it's just about the
Okay.
you know how some people, you know how like when you're a little kid, like you sometimes wet your bed. Is that
Yeah.
signal not strong enough to wake you up?
So it's a good question that Eric is asking. I don't know if you guys are hearing. He's asking about wetting the bed, and the point of potty training is to teach you to recognize that and hold that. You know, the same signals get sent to babies that they have to go to the bathroom. The difference is they just go. You know what I mean? And so what potty training is teaching us that, hey, no, when you feel that, let's go to this room, to this appliance, and let's do that there. So it can be that there is some problems with the signal. But usually it's just, that they haven't subconsciously learned to hold that or to wake themselves up to go use the bathroom. Because, I mean, we all get the same thing now, but we know enough that if you're having dreams about the toilet and going to the bathroom, I should probably go up and go to the bathroom. You know? Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. Yes. I do not. I don't want you to go super in depth. Right. So, your textbook, kind of unhelpful.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to understand.
Well, the textbook gives you lots of good details. Well, no, it's very... What does the convoluted tube do? What's the proximal convoluted tube? What's that doing? The proximal convoluted tube is pulling in that filtrate, right? The water, the electrolytes from the blood, right? Then it goes down, it descends down the loop of Henle. What's happening there? All the water is being taken out, right? So you get a very concentrated filtrate at the bottom of your loop of Henle. And then as it goes back up, what's happening? Water comes back in. Yeah. So it's like it filters it all and gets it super concentrated. Then as it goes back up, it like undoes all the work it just did. Well, that's what Hank was saying, right? That it seems very inefficient. But in the process, we still get, and then the reason why is your body water is super valuable, right? It's like the most valuable thing that we have. We can have these systems that are what seem to be pretty inefficient because water is usually pretty easy access for us. And we're strong enough that we can carry a whole bunch of it around with us, in our bodies, because our body is so much water, right? Versus a bird or a desert something that it can't carry water. So its kidneys have to be super efficient. Does that make sense? And then the last piece, that distal convoluted tube, is where it's again sending out any electrolytes. It's trying to get it just urine, keeping all of the good things that the body needs, all the water, all the electrolytes, all the things it needs will go out still of that filtrate. And again, now we can call it urine, but out of that filtrate to let that then be sent out of the body. Because it wants to keep all the good and get rid of all the bad, right? Get rid of all the wastes, all the byproducts, all the uric acid. But keep all the water, keep all the electrolytes, keep all the things that it needs. Oh no, excuse me. Because again, we still have, and it all depends on how much you're drinking. The more water you drink, what happens to your urine? It gets clear, right? It becomes more water-like because the body's saying, hey, no, I'm good. I got lots of water around here. I don't need to concentrate the urine so much to keep that water in. I got plenty available. Let's just let it pass out. Which is, in truth, what we want. We want our bodies to have plenty of water and not have to concentrate so much. But if I then suddenly don't drink for a while, okay, now the body starts, oh no, I'm going to hold on to this water. So you get somebody who's been in the desert for days and days and days, their urine is very dark. Like, yeah, very almost orangish yellow. Because the body is saying, no, I can keep all this water. So that would be almost no water in the urine. Does that make sense? Question, ma'am? Cayenne, do you have a question or no? That's all right, that's right. Doing the hand thing. Okay, I'm going to stop this here.